Oh my gosh. Nia, why Mattel? Nia is so annoying. Oh my gosh. Okay. Anyway, so Thomas meets up with Nia, who is laughing at him, being a jerk, and Thomas, of course, doesn't like that. So when Nia offers to help him, he doesn't let her because she was being a jerk to him. So that was your fault, Nia. Good job. But anyway, so Thomas ditches Nia, which she for some reason follows Thomas anyway, and Thomas comes to this hill, and Nia comes up behind him and helps him up because he has way too many trucks. So they go to Dar es Salaam, which is like 5,000 miles. Thomas looks for Ace, but he doesn't see it. He doesn't see him. We meet the Garrett, which is kind of weird. And then Thomas and Nia get onto a ship, and Nia, for some reason, is also interested in going around the world. Why exactly? I have no idea. For the sake of the plot, I guess. But anyway, so Thomas is all, I don't want Nia here, and then, of course, everybody does not. And then Ace is on the happens to be on the ship too. So they all get off in Brazil, which is the next continent. And then Thomas and Nia start delivering. They decide to follow the rally by taking some coffee to San Francisco. Meanwhile, Sir Topham Hatt gets loaded onto a ship to Africa, and then while there, he searches the desert, but he can't find him. When Sir Topham Hatt arrives in Dar es Salaam, one of the people there says that they saw him being loaded onto a ship that was to Brazil. So Sir Topham Hatt, of course, follows them to Brazil. Anyway, and then he starts looking there. So then basically you go this like Thomas and Nia montage, like scene thing where they're just traveling through the Amazon, and this weird scene of the rally race comes up. Like, all the race cars just jump over them in the exact same spot, which is totally unrealistic. But, yeah, it was just weird. In the next few scenes, it's going to get pretty unrealistic, especially with one part, which I'll get to in a little bit. So, Nia is worried about their coal and water supply, and they do eventually run out of water. But before they do that, they find out that Ace has crashed, so they decide to take him along on their train by just putting him on a flatbed of coffee sacks somehow. But anyway, yeah, they continue traveling. They come across this bridge thing. Okay, let me just mention the water. So it starts raining, of course, and then they run out of water. Nia decides, hey, let's build funnels out of leaves to funnel water into our water tanks. So they do that. Then they continue on their way. They come across this like little bridge scene which collapses for some strange reason. And then one of the trucks almost dies, which was pretty epic. I actually really feel sorry for that truck. Like, pretty much I think the only country that has trucks that are real jerks is Sodor. Everywhere else, the trucks are kind of friendly. So, to see one of the friendlier trucks almost die, I don't know. It's just almost depressing. Like, if he actually died, that would be really depressing for me. But, because I like the trucks. I like those trucks. But anyway, so, yeah, the trucks are literally petrified. I feel sorry for them. About losing their friend, or almost losing their friend. And they keep traveling. And then Thomas and Ace, agree on, like, doing some sort of race with Nia, which basically like splitting the train in half between the two engines, and then racing them to see who can get to San Francisco first. So they do that, and then a few minutes later, Ace, who is on Thomas's half of the train, tells Thomas to play a trick on Nia. So they fall behind and then switch off the track that Nia and they were running on, and they basically, they ditch Nia. So here is the unrealistic part. Oh my god. They go on this giant roller coaster, and then Ace tells Thomas that they're going to the Salt Flats, which is where the next rally is, which is not where Thomas wanted to go. They go on this giant roller coaster. Thomas hits a rock on the track. They literally come off the track, still going at the same speed somehow, and then are fast enough to go all around a loop without falling, which is totally unrealistic, and I really hate that part for it. They were definitely not going fast enough to make it across that loop. And conveniently, they all land on the track somehow again. Oh my gosh! And to make matters worse, some of the coffee sacks fall out of one of the trucks, and then when they come back onto the tracks, somehow, the sacks all land back on the truck. What? This is some of the cartoon crap that everybody hates about Thomas. It's starting to get really unrealistic, and I hate it. It looks totally fake. The animation in that part looks so cheesy looking. No. If I need to make an edit where that one little clip about them going over that loop is taken out, because that was just really ridiculous. So anyway, the roller coaster ride continues. They come across this cowboy style train, and then they bump his trucks, which somehow become uncoupled from him, and they roll backwards, and then they switch lines and start chasing after Thomas's train. But Thomas, of course, doesn't know it, and then they finally slow down, and then Ace is like, "Yay, that was fun!" And then Thomas is like, "No, it wasn't." And then the train that was chasing them finally slams into them, and they get shot forward into this abandoned mine. Yeah, this was weird. They hit a bunch of bumps in the track. They crash into a mine cart, which was surprising. Who knows how long that thing has been there. Anyway, they crash through the other side of the mine. Now, this is, again, kind of unrealistic. All of the trains, literally, all Thomas, Ace, and the trucks literally fly up into the air, and then the mine cart just comes off the tracks and nothing really happens to it. Thomas flies up in the air, somehow becomes uncoupled from his train. Ace flies off the truck. Thomas's driver and fireman jump clear, while Ace's driver jumps out of his cab. And then this is where things start going crazy. Thomas and Ace, Thomas just slams onto the ground on his side, and Ace lands on his roof. Now, I don't understand how they do not suffer serious damage from that hit. You can actually hear the banging noise of the metal. That's a pretty hard hit. If that were realistic, I would say that they'd probably suffer some paint scratching and pretty bad dents from that. And they don't. So I don't understand how that's possible. Also, the trucks just fall over and all the sacks fall out, which doesn't really matter. But they're all unattached from each other somehow. So, yeah, that's pretty much that accident. So, yeah, they stayed there overnight. It's really boring. And then the cowboy-style train that they had encountered earlier comes with a bunch of people and horses to rescue them and put them back on the track. Again, I don't get this, because when Thomas gets put back onto the track, he somehow has received no damage whatsoever, and he's still able to run. How is he still able to run? I mean, what? I would have guessed his water should have leaked out by that point. And what about his coal? That should have fallen out too. well, okay, I guess they could scoop the coal back in, but really? Really? Anyway, aside from that, Thomas takes Ace to the salt flats where Ace is repaired after his crash in the Amazon. Thomas goes to the harbor in San Francisco where he delivers the coffee, and then he goes onto the ship to China. And then Sir Topham Hatt arrives in San Francisco because he tracked Thomas down, and he has no idea where Thomas is, of course, and he gets on another boat. So basically, yeah, Thomas is going to China to look for Nia, and then there's another song called I'm Sorry, as most people call it. Now, why is this song in here? I have no idea, but I just don't really like this song. It's just depressing, and I don't really like it. So, yeah. Apart from that, there's not really much to talk about besides Thomas just finds Nia in the mountains. You meet Yang Bao for the first time in 2 years. And there's this huge avalanche and Nia almost dies, but Thomas decides to try and rescue her. Yang Bao saves the day by pushing Thomas, helping Thomas out. So yeah, now they're both saved. Nia gets put back on the tracks, and both engines travel back to Sodor. And Nia reveals that she does not have a home, and her home was apparently taken over or destroyed. I can't really remember because it's been about a week since I've seen the movie. But yeah, so Thomas allows Nia to stay on Sodor, but he'll have to speak to Topham Hatt first. Everyone is there to greet him. He introduces Nia. They find out that Sir Topham Hatt is not with him anymore. And then the movie ends with Sir Topham Hatt just talking to some seagulls, like he's seasick or something. And he's like, I suppose none of you have seen this tank engine. His name is... And then Ace, who is on the same boat, notices the picture and he says, Thomas? And then that's when the movie ends. Okay, how does Sir Topham Hatt get back to Sodor? I have no idea. But he's back in season 22, so that makes no sense.